Well, hello there YouTube, how is it going? Today I'm going to be discussing a possible future updates the guys at Hello Games could be releasing for No Man's Sky, and of course some of these are going to include things that I would love to see but may not come to light. And whilst we're at it, the question of the video is, what do you guys want to see added as a future update in No Man's Sky? It could be literally anything. Let me know in the comments below. So I've managed to narrow this list down to 8 possible things we could see. Of course there are many more, so stay tuned. I may do another video of other things that I've not discussed in this video. Before we get stuck in, why not hit that subscribe button so you never have to miss out on any of my No Man's Sky videos. And of course I will be doing videos on all the future updates that the guys at Hello Games will be doing, so you'll be able to see all those as well. Right then, let's get going. At number 1 we have Biome Mixing. What do I mean by Biome Mixing? Well, you know how when you land on any random planet and no matter how far you walk or fly across the same planet, it always looks the same apart from if you're on land or water. That's really the only difference. So planets could be icy, grassy, super hot, super radioactive, etc, etc. And this also goes the same for flora and fauna. It's all the same across the entire planet. So I think what would be awesome and what might be possible to do is get multiple biomes on each planet, or at least a few planets within each system. You know how we have the North Pole, the South Pole, deserts, forests here on our big blue and green planet? Having something similar on planets within No Man's Sky would be totally awesome, right? Number 2 is sort of similar, and that is varied terrain on the planet. So you know how we have planets which have few hills or it's just very mountainous and we don't really have much in terms of flat land to go with it, or vice versa? Well, what if we have both? And what we have, we could also see things like waterfalls and rivers instead of giant seas and lakes. This also goes for dense forests. We get a few trees here and there, but what if we could have an area with a good amount of trees so dense that we could find hidden rewards in them, and even make it more interesting, more aggressive creatures who'll be in them who only reside in the dense forest to make it a bit more interesting. I think that would be pretty cool. And have you ever noticed that all the plant life on the planet looks entirely the same over the entire planet? What if we could have things like fallen trees, growing trees, a variety of colours depending on where you're at, etc, etc. I think this would make it a lot more realistic and a bit more interesting. Another nature related one, I guess, at point 3 we've got improved atmospherics. So you know we have storms and rain on planets. What if we could also have things like fog, which will then possibly bring some terrors along with it because you can't see that much of what's going on. I think it'd be pretty cool for some planets to be like a horror kind of planet, so where this sort of stuff could happen. It would also go well with the dense forest, as I previously mentioned, with hidden treasures but also hidden enemies. It's sort of effectively an extension of the existing Desolation update, but it resides on planets as well now instead. I also think, and I think I've heard a few people say this, I think the clouds on planets could certainly look a bit more realistic, do you not think? Having more varied weather on planets, especially if the biome mixing comes into play, depending on whereabouts you are on the planet, would be pretty awesome and more realistic for, say, the South Pole, the North Pole. I think it'd be pretty cool. Point 4 is probably a bit more unrealistic, but now that we've had settlements from the recent Frontiers update, how awesome would it be if we could have cities? Now, of course, this may be difficult with older consoles and PCs and their technological abilities to render all this stuff, so this is probably unlikely unless No Man's Sky, the guys at Hello Game drop support for these older systems. But could you imagine how awesome it would be if you rocked up to an entire city on a planet which gave you some new lore, new quests, the opportunity to get new resources, meet new species, or even as a first step, what if the guys at Hello Games introduced some huge orbital bases, a bit like Cloud City from Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back? So it's kind of an extension of the Frontiers settlement update, or equally, if we could eventually turn our own little settlements into big towns or cities, I think that would be pretty awesome and bring a whole new dynamic to the No Man's Sky. But again, this is more wishful thinking than realistic. Just a friendly reminder, as I mentioned before, let me know in the comments below of any updates you'd like to see. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking as well. At point 5, I think we have one people who have wanted since day one, and this is more around customization of your starships. This can include anything from changing colours, adding decals, altering our cockpit look to our own style, and even adding weapons or changing the entire look of the ship from the outside. Now, who doesn't want the ability to do that? You can even have these customizations as rewards for doing quests, or having the ability to buy specific customizations at space stations and trade terminals, or even the anomaly. Not using real money, of course, just in-game units. This customization could even extend to our multi-tools as well. Let's be honest, a lot of multi-tools aren't the most amazing thing to look at, but the ones that are so rare to come across, it's hardly worth the effort. So the ability to change the appearance of them based on, let's say, some rewards for quests again, I think that would be pretty awesome. And I know we have character customization, but Hello Games could even enhance that by adding more things like new heads, new bodies, new outfits, new jetpacks. This is less of a need, of course, but more just enhancing the existing customization, which is already pretty good. But you can never have too many options, right? And some, again, you could be rewarded for completing quests. So you know how you can stumble across derelict freighters and derelict stations? Well, in at number 6, for a possible update, what if we have the ability to salvage these and restore them and claim them as our own? You can salvage resources from the derelict freighters and stations, go off on mini quests to gather more resources in order to repair and rebuild them. It would be another free way of getting a freighter, and you'd be more satisfied because you built this thing from ground up. And same goes with a space station. I think if you're able to restore a derelict space station, you should be able to claim it as your own, and then you can get income from any trade that takes place on that station. And I think that's a good idea. You can basically set up your own business in No Man's Sky. Now this possible update would be one I'm fairly confident a lot of you guys would want to see, and I've seen a lot of people who want to see it on Reddit. So at number 7, you know how we can get blueprints for all these base parts, right? What about if we can create blueprints of a structure or even an entire base that we've created, so then they can be reused whenever we want? Let's say we want to create another base, for example. And it doesn't stop there, of course. This can be expanded, so let's say any No Man's Sky player is able to create a blueprint from a structure they have built, and then any other player can go on to, let's say, a marketplace and learn to build that same structure. I think this is one way to vastly improve the already impressive base building experience, so you can see some customizations based on what other players have done. And of course, secondly, with regards to base building, what about having more spherical or curved base building parts? I think that would be a good addition to prevent us from having to glitch these parts. Just a secondary thought, but mainly I would love to be able to create a blueprint out of a structure and access other players' structures and bases as well. And last, but certainly not least, this is possibly my most sought after update, which would be a bit of a combat overhaul within the game. Of course, a few space dogfights are good fun, but what if we could warp to a system and find a massive space fight between multiple freighters and factions, something that wouldn't go amiss in a proper Star Wars movie, for example. Of course, some players don't want this, so Hello Games could introduce a scanner that tells you if you're about to warp into the middle of a war zone. I think that would be pretty awesome to have these large-scale dogfights as soon as you arrive, and then you can choose a side or just go in as a mercenary and do what the hell you want. Of course, this combat overhaul doesn't have to end in space. What about heading on down to the surface of a planet in that same system, and you find yourself in a similar large-scale war zone where you can pick a side and fight for a faction, or again, go it alone, and get loads of rewards for either defeating other factions, defeating both factions and you're just there like some Rambo kind of thing. But of course, this could be more wishful thinking on my part, but I think larger scale battles on both space and on planets would be totally awesome. What do you guys think about that? So there are 8 possible future updates Hello Games could release for No Man's Sky. Some are more realistic than others, and some are more sought after than others as well. Such as the customization of starships. I know many players have been asking for this from day one, and I think it can't be that difficult to add in, surely. So what do you guys want to see as a future update? Let me know in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, why don't you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.